Hi there, I'm Ahsan and you are watching me on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we are going to talk about best relationship advice. If you are new into the relationship or an old couple and things are going well and you are excited about your relationship and you want things to keep going the same way. And today we are going to discuss the same thing. Some of the top suggestions are that you should be a better listener. You don't have to be needy. You admire things because some people, when uh, in a relationship, they they stop admiring and appreciating the other partner, and it seems like it feels like the other partners that they are taking for granted. You don't have to do that. Be vulnerable and respecting others. And when people are in a relationship, they don't give time to their partner, to their family and friends. They give a lot of time to their partner, but not to their friends and family. Uh, your friends and family are also should also be your priority along with your partner. And there are many suggestions, and uh, we are going to dive much deeper into the relationship. And to discuss this topic, my guest is Melissa Amy.
Hi.
She has joined us from New York. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Do you hear an echo? Is
No,
there an echo? Okay. Okay.
no.
All right.
And yeah, I think you are not using hand free. Can you use if you are using hand
Headphones?
free? Then yeah.
I don't know if they're connected to my computer. I only have them connected to my phone. Is it
Okay.
okay? Is it that bad, or do I mean, if it's that bad, I can figure it out.
No, it's perfect. We can go without hand free, but next
Okay.
time keep it
All
on.
right. All right.
Okay, and our topic is relationship advice,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the first thing in my point of view that the partner should have the same values. I think this is uh, the base. This is the foundation of any relationship. If you're not on the same page in terms of values, whether it is education, whether it's belief, whether it is uh, color or anything, you have the values you have set in your mind, and your partner should have the same values. Once you have the same values, then you can easily start a relationship and it can prolong over a period of time.
So,
And
okay.
what do you think? Is it right, or do you have some other suggestion in your mind that relationship should be like better listening, appreciating, or
Well, I think we should take it one thing at a time because values are
Mhm.
different than listening.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
what I'd also like to say is values. Yes, I mean, when I think of values, I think of character. So, as most of us in our how do I say this, on the people that we usually engage with, um, I would say we have a different level of character than other people. Um, so somebody who doesn't know what's going on right now, I would say that that would be a different level of character because they don't care about what's going on. So
Mhm.
it's so much deeper than um, he's not spending enough time with me, or she's not spending enough time with me, or the things that might drive the average person apart, the average couple. It's
Mhm.
much more deeper. The deeper work you do on yourself, the harder it gets. So it's even more. It adds more things onto the other ways that people become disconnected. Other couples become disconnected. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? How I explained it?
Yeah, yeah, I think to some extent it is making sense. Values, I think values should be the foundation. And before
Yes.
getting into the relationship, Your values should be the same, and your partner and you should have the same values. You should be on the same page in terms of values, because there are many things you can compromise, but when it comes to values, I think you can console yourself with an idea that, okay, I like her or I like him, and I can compromise, but values, they will trick you over time.
And values can change over time.
Hmm.
The same way you can look at how politically I've changed over time. At one time, I was a very liberal person. Now, then I'm kind of more conservative, and now I'm finding my own spot just in politics. So people change over time. So their character changes over time, their values change over time. So that's something to keep in mind too. That's part of the roots, part of the foundation. Um, Before you can build up, or even like, okay, when we think of, all right, I'll speak of right now what's going on, in the world, where if you question all right, this is kind of off the topic, 1 second. If you question a PCR test, how can you, and if that's not reliable, and how do you build off of that? How do you build off of that? So it's the same kind of thing. If you don't have the same values, and those values can change over time, if you don't have that straight, you can't build off of that. So that's what I was trying to say.
I think the other thing here, another thing comes up in the values when you talk about values. You had the same values when you started the relationship, but over time your values change, and the question is, uh, the values of your partner changed or not? It's very interesting to important here. It is very important here to keep in mind that you are moving, you are progressing. The question is whether your partner is progressing at the same rate or not. And I think there's another question here is understanding whether you are agree or disagree. You should have an understanding with your partner, and it is not what you fight, it is how you fight that matters.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Okay. You may have to. I don't remember the whole question, so I'll just go to right. I remember the ending.
Yeah, okay.
So what I would say is, yes. What do you get angry over? What do you get angry over? And what
Mhm,
I love about, I'm just going to quote Mark Passio, when he
mhm,
says, righteous anger. What do you get angry over? Some, people today could get angry over someone cutting them off in traffic, and that could ruin their whole day, and they're in a rage. Or some people can get angry at tyranny. So, like, to me, it's kind of all relative. What do you get angry about? And that goes back to the roots. That goes back to the PCR test. That goes back to your values. So that's, kind of what I was thinking of. Again, roots. You can't build
mhm.
unless you have the roots down.
Yeah, and understanding, it is important that whether you agree or disagree, you should have a solid understanding and compassion, and to to feel the level of your partner.
And I agree with that. I once, if the values are fine, if the roots are fine, that should
Mhm,
be, if the roots are fine higher up when it comes to communication or listening, I believe it's already there. So that's even a question. I believe if it's a root question. So if you're at that level of a point where you're saying, I don't feel understood by this person, I don't feel valued by this person, or we're growing apart, we don't share interest. If you're already at that point, or we're not connecting, the values are wrong. The values are
yeah,
wrong. The character values, the foundation's wrong. So you're back to the, when those things are coming up, start looking back at the foundation and doing those, deep questions. What do I want? What does he want? Are we on the same page? As what you said earlier. But even for people who are more spiritual, it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. So the roots are even deeper, you know?
yes, and for instance, one person is spiritual and the other person is materialistic, but they like each other. Values are different, and a spiritual person thinks that I can change, I can convert him into spirituality, but over time he realizes that the things are not happening. Then you are living with the wrong person. Values are different. and things are not moving the way you want it, and at the end of the day, you are at the same spot where you have started from. So values should be the priority. What should be the other thing in your point of view that we should that couples, partners, and new partners should keep in mind?
I just had a point. Now I forgot it. I'm sorry. I was going to take a note and I just forgot. I was just commenting on what you just said.
Mhm,
Trying to think it'll come back to
mhm.
me. Maybe it won't. It was listening
Okay.
roots.
Yes,
Um,
here Linda joined us, Jesse joined us, and Christopher has just joined us. Thank you guys, and please do share it out. Yes, and yeah, I'm gonna next point. I think keep past in the past. It is also important.
yes. Oh, now
Keep
I know
things.
my point. I just can I go? I know what I was thinking before. You know what
Yes,
slipped from my mind. Um,
please do.
no, no, now it left again. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Um, oh yes,
Okay.
I got it. I got it. Okay, so spirituality, the difference between people who are not spiritual, and this is from my perspective, because we're all individuals and we can all have our own perception. I'm just sharing my perception. My perception is that at a spiritual level, if these same problems came up, you would already be talking about it. Be like, you're not a relationship, like we're not so big on those contracts. We're more on, are things in alignment? Are things making us feel fulfilled? Are we happy? Are we growing? Are we growing as a person? And and if you really are a spiritual person, and not that you don't get feelings, but you know how to work on them a little bit deeper, and you could take a step back, have that conversation about, are we working? And maybe we're not meant to continue on this path anymore, but I still want you part of my life. And I think people who are spiritual can detach easier that way. We're not so caught up in what the traditional roles are in that way, or what's required of us. A lot of us have already worked on, free will, sovereignty. So we don't feel in any way that a relationship should be slavery, because that's kind of what it sounds like in slavery. When you're not happy, why aren't you having these conversations of why you're not happy? What about what you want in your life? Is that, and you could just have two different things you want to do in your life, but they're not going to end up together. So then you give up on what you want to do. And is that why you were born? Is that why you were born, to give up on other things and not do what you're passionate about? Because you said, Pat, I'm coming back on the passion. So I think spiritual people don't allow, as you do the work, you don't allow these things to hinder you. And you would want everybody around you to be happy. It's not about, well, I hope this person's miserable when they're not with me anymore. No, you handled it consciously. If you're conscious about what you're eating, you're conscious about what you're thinking, you're conscious about living a healthy, overall healthy lifestyle. Well, so that's the same in your relationships, and that's the same in an ending of an intimate relationship. It doesn't mean that you cannot be good friends with the person, like it depend, it would depend on the situation.
Mm,
But you're having those conversations, and you're not so attached. Like, I know people around me that are married for like 20 years and they never question, well, I'm just with Bill. And you see them and they're miserable around town. Like, well, I'm with Bill, I'm with Bill. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't
mm,
understand that. My
mm.
parents were miserable, their whole marriage miserable. Like, why would you spend all these years with someone that you're miserable with each other? You know, it doesn't make sense. Is that a sovereign? That's not a sovereign. All right, Rand.
And Linda has joined us, and many other people are joining us right now. Thank you guys, and please do share it out. Yeah, the other thing I wanted, relationship shouldn't be like a slavery. It should be like a fun thing that you like a person. Yeah, another thing here comes up that you should feel secure and be vulnerable to your partner. And if you are vulnerable to your partner and your partner is also vulnerable to you, then it is a very good start.
And the vulnerability goes back to doing the inner work, so you trust yourself and you trust the decisions you're making. So if you're really not sure constantly, you're probably not in a position to be having a dialogue with someone or opening those doors if you're still working on trusting yourself. And I swear if someone would have said this to me 10 years ago, I never would have got the concept. I heard the concept, but I didn't feel the concept. And I feel it now that if you're paranoid or you're distrustful, you can't project that onto somebody else, because they're going to project, you're going to have a matching hypothesis. So they're going to project their stuff onto you. So you have to do your inner work, and if you don't do your inner work first and you get into a relationship, you're going to have a lot of lessons. So that's part of spirituality too, that I have just a deeper level of understanding on that. You
Yes.
there?
Yes, I'm here, and
Birch
there's
Bear.
a comment here. Can you read it? It is on the screen. It's from Riley.
Oh no.
Okay, you can't read it. You can't
Yes.
see the comment.
Yes, I can see it. Riley said,
Okay.
my ex fell for the pandemic. We are not on the same frequency anymore. Sometimes it's healthier to separate and find the same vibe. Absolutely. If somebody, I could not
Mhm.
be somebody, I couldn't even be with somebody who was wearing a mask or told me to go wash my hands or had the alcohol. Like, no, not even, you know, not even that's a root issue. That's a root issue. So Riley's completely, I hear you, completely right on that. No, no. All right.
There's one other thing to keep in mind, that there shouldn't be any pressure on on partner, whether in terms of performance or performance in the bed or in the personal life. There shouldn't be any pressure on each of the partners. They should feel free, and they should redefine many things in the relationship.
If the roots are good and both did their inner work, that should not be an issue. Because if you have any, you should be healing you should have healed a lot of your root, and we call it yoni. I call it yoni. You should have that healed before you really are open to having even a relationship when you consider spiritual. You have to heal that stuff. You can't skip steps. If you skip steps, you're going to get a lesson, because that's the process, right? We all know the process. The process is long. It's always changing. You can't cheat. You can't lie. Your intentions don't lie. The universe feels it. So you're not fooling anybody. So you could fake it and skip like 7 steps, but you're going to get a lesson, because that's how the universe works. Once you understand that, life is so much simpler. Once you apply that, you can apply that to everything. And so relationships the same way. I apply it to relationships. You gotta work on the process. You can't jump steps. You got to do the work. And when once you
Work
do it, you
work
realize
on
it works.
work on yourself, that what you really want and what your partner really want, and your values should be on the same page. Once you're on the same page, then I don't think there would be any conflict later in the road. And there's a comment here from Angel and Joy. Angeline,
Hey,
okay, can you? Yes, love can help and heal to all different kinds of people, situation, and things that will help or benefit relationship are as unique as people. Absolutely.
and the love is yourself first, because
Yes.
when you're first working on when you're first doing the deep work, I almost look at it like the way of the hermit or the monk. I went completely inside myself, because I knew it just came to a point where I had to do this deep inner work. And part of it was researching like what's going on in the external, but then a lot of it was also me processing how I could handle all this new information I'm learning. And then just doing, just being open to new things. I just started learning, and I had to go within. And it was very, very stressful for my family. However, I wouldn't regret that for a minute, because I had to put myself first. So the love is for you first, because if you don't get to that place, you can't give it to anybody else. And also you're not in alignment. The same, your roots are wrong. So if your roots are wrong, you can't go, you're jumping a step. In any direction of your life, if you jump a step, you get a lesson, whether that's your career, whether that's your health, in all aspects. So, I'm aware of the things where I should be changing my life and doing it better this way or that way. I'm aware of it. It's not something I'm not aware of. Am I perfect? No, I have vices, or I have, things that, I can get angry, but, easily, and be aggressive in certain ways that help me. But in all situations, it's not the best. But like, I'm aware of my stuff. Like, some people are walking around, they're not even aware of their stuff. And then it makes them very manipulative, because they're not in touch with their feelings. So, that's the same. You carry that into your interactions, your communication. You bring that to your job. You bring that into all your, as a parent, you bring it everywhere. So either it's healed or it's toxic. And that's why you have to break it first. Because if you don't break it, you're passing it down to your children. And then you're not elevating a step. So lessons all over the place. When one way of not changing affects, it's a ripple. So
Yes. And what do you think about the role of spirituality in the relationship? I think because we have been talking about the inner work and work on yourself, and you should know what you really want. I think there should be a little touch of spirituality would be very useful in the relationship.
I well, I again, for me, I'm a very passionate person, and so I'm
Mhm.
passionate about everything that I do, because everything that I do, I want to do, because I've already balanced. I've already. It's not perfect, my life, but I've arranged it where I'm doing the things that I want to do, and they're in alignment for me. They're alignment where I want to go as a career. They're alignment in helping me do inner work. They're aligning me with helping my family. And bringing truth out, and protection, and that kind of thing. And passions everywhere. Passions in my cooking. Passions how I research. Passions how I read poetry. Passions how, like, I take care of myself. I put myself first. I make sure that I do a lot of self-care. And self-care makes me more attractive. And also makes me healthier, and it's a stress reducer. So it's a win-win overall. And I use natural ingredients that aren't expensive. So every way is a plus when you're in alignment. So you just take these little things that you do in your life, that you make changes, and you just make them larger and larger. And that's how, so once you follow that plan, you just keep following that plan.
Yes. And it's a comment here from Angeline, and I've been there and done that to 20 years, and one on the other side, it never ends, though we never stop growing and learning to love and love ourselves. Love you, Melissa, you are beautiful.
Thank you, Angeline.
Yes, and the other thing, the next point I want to mention is live in the moment. And them, because once you set goals that you have to be there and you want to reach there, then it becomes a pressure on either, yeah, on both of the partners, and they forget to live in the moment. There are many happiness, there are many joyful moments, and they forget to enjoy those moments. Living in the moment is very important in the relationship. What do you think?
I completely agree with that. And that was such a gift for me. And I think for me, it's been a little bit easier doing spiritual work because I've been a therapist. And it reminds me of, it's just taking cognitive behavioral therapy and extending it, taking it further. You know, to me, it seems like more Jung, that kind of, Carl Jung. The way I tweaked it in my mind. So when we say about the present moment, your thoughts, your behavior, your thoughts, behaviors, and reactions. How your thoughts, feelings, reactions. Trying to think how it goes. So your thoughts affect how you feel. No, no, wait. I'm thinking. Yes, that's how your thoughts. I haven't done CBT in a while. Your thoughts, what you're thinking. So you have to be conscious of what's going on in your head. You have to be conscious of what you're telling yourself. So the communication, you can't have communication with somebody else if you're not aware of your own communication, because you're going to make it toxic. So your thoughts. First, every time I would do therapy with someone, I would be like, be aware of your thoughts. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? The first week I said, just observe your thoughts. Just observe them. I just want you to pay attention to them. And then the second time I would go, I'm like, now I want you to be aware of them. I just want you to be aware, are they positive or negative? And nothing after that, just, okay, that was negative, like little clouds over your head. That was negative, that was negative, that was positive. And then, normally people would see that they have so many more negative thoughts than positives. So that's going to affect your behavior. Your behavior could be you're mistrusting towards other people. You might get into more arguments. You might have, a more me mentality. Because you're kind of a prisoner to your thoughts because it's affecting your behavior. So when your thoughts become more positive, and I'm going to get to living in the moment 1 second. When your thoughts are more positive and you're aware, like when you put your own thoughts in your head, like, no, I'm gonna decide how I'm gonna feel today. And you put those thoughts in your head, your feelings are different. You feel more upbeat. You feel more confident. You feel more secure. Then your behavior is different. That's really confident. The way you walk in the world changes. Your behavior changes from doing the inner work. And it's hard to fake that. People can fake it. People can fake it here and there. And, there's manipulative people who can fake it for a little bit, but they can't fake it to somebody who's done the work. It's like another doctor talking to somebody who didn't study anything medical. You're going to know like that. So somebody who's done the inner work is going to know if they spend a great deal of time with this person. And that's what somebody who's spiritual would do. They're not just going to jump and be with somebody. They're going to really do the work. They're going to do their due diligence. So you're making good decisions. Your roots are good. You're making good decisions. And when it comes to being in the moment, you're more in the moment. You're because you're always kind of aware of what's going on in your head. You're in the moment. And not only that, you're setting your thoughts. You're deciding what you're going to think about and how you're going to feel. So that's empowering. So it changes everything. So to me, I can find joy out of having an orange. I can find joy out of smelling. And if I didn't even have a whole orange, I could find joy out of smelling an orange peel, a piece of basil. In the winter, I have a little small bathroom. I made it into a sauna. I just took a heater. I took incense and I made it my own little thing because I find joy anywhere. Wherever I am, I find joy. And that's old work. You can't fake that. You can't fake that. Because I'm like a night and day person. I've made such a change that I'm a different person. I made that. I create. And other people, we all have the ability to create, once we have the right tools. And for me, I think I want to go back to that. I think it was easier for me to do it because I was a therapist. So I just took therapy further. And first I did the work on myself. I had to do the work on myself because you can't fake it. If you didn't do the work, it's just not gonna be authentic. And it's not gonna, you're skipping steps. You can't skip the steps.
Yes, and we all go back to the same thing, the values. What you really want, you have to work on yourself. And once you know yourself, then you can easily build a very good relationship on that foundation.
Yes. So it all starts
Yes,
within.
yes. And the other point I want to start is when relationship becomes a routine, then monotonous routines, then one partner takes the other partner for granted. They lack the ability to gratitude and appreciate their partner. Appreciating a small gesture of kindness, one smile saying thank you, you are doing great job, and I miss you. These are small things. These are small gestures of kindness, and if they are there in the relationship, then it will keep the spirit up.
I would say if somebody's not complimenting enough or not in tune with their partner, they're still at the root problem. So everything, and the root problem means if you're disconnected from other people, you're not connected yourself because you're aware of it. You're aware it's a problem around you and you would make changes, because again, if you've done a lot of inner work, you don't want to tolerate, what you're willing to tolerate is a lot less than most people. We're very, you've done you're very particular. And if somebody isn't connecting with you, there's a problem because as a spiritual person, everything you do is passionate. So you would be aware very quickly, you know, in a very conscious couple, you're going to be aware very quickly if the other person's not happy. And the other person's not going to be passive aggressive about it because you work through your stuff. You're not bringing your baggage. You did your own work. And that's not like people always think it's money or it's this or looks or no, you did your inner work. You know, you have, no one can give that to you. You have to do it yourself. So, and again, you know, a spiritual person, you know, someone, I'm using the term spiritual for lack of a better word. Wisdom, I don't know what, you know, what would be the right word to call it. You know, when you're there, you know, or, and you're never really completely there, but because you're always working. But you're just aware of it. These things wouldn't happen and if you were conscious. And the other point is, and if you have to do the inner work yourself, that's just it.
Yeah,
So
inner work is important, and because I remember, okay, I'm gonna share my experience with a
sure.
relationship. Earlier, I was young, and there was the relationship started with simple mutual likeness, and there was no inner work there on my side, and there was no. I expect the same thing. There was no inner work the other side as well, the other partner, and things I realized later on that. They were different values. I was kind of more like a spiritual person. That okay, I am kind and humble and everything, but for my partner, for my ex, and she was more like the other kind of completely different type person. Like why you forgot to do that kind of thing. There's a special day is coming, saying birthday and small. There are things that you do. Okay, happy birthday, happy Eid day, or there 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 are things that you do on the holidays. And I to me all days are same. You have to be kind and enjoy every moment and live in the moment. And I was kind of that kind of person, and she was the other kind of person. And later I realized that and to me all days are same, and to her some days are different, and you should celebrate a little more. And there was then we end up having fights over and over again, and there was a big fight and we broke up. So, and the lesson I learned out of from my relationship that we should be on the same page in terms of values.
Yes.
You cannot build a relationship. You can have if you are going to relationship, you should tell the person that what kind of person you are, and your partner and your lover or whatever, your spouse or your couple, he or she should know that what kind of person you are and what you really want in the relationship. And if he agrees, okay, it's good. If he is understandable, then okay, I can compromise and live with those things. It can happen. Otherwise, it won't.
I even take that further. I don't think you even have to have a conversation about that. I think you invite into your life, like as you change spiritually, you're gonna evolve. So, you know, friendships change, families change as you evolve. If you want your life to fall more into order. So you're not going to be in, unless you're already in that spot, then then yes, you know, because you want to try to still, like, you need to go through that process. You know, if you realize that you're changing spiritually in your spouse or whoever you're in a relationship, you know, whatever, if they're not in the same wavelength or frequency as you are, yes, you know, it's a process though, and it's important that you're conscious of how you're handling yourself in the process. You know, are you applying all the principles? Are you being accountable? Are you being responsible? Are you showing character? Are you showing ethics? Those don't change just because a relationship breaks up. You know, I am pretty much who I am. All right, this is how I am pretty much who I am everywhere. So, you know, the person that you see online, like, you see me more, people will see me more when I'm agitated because I'm more of an introvert and it's harder for me to come live. But, you know, I've been getting better at it, and I'm feeling more comfortable. But a lot of times I would come on when I was really angry about things, and a righteous anger, like anger about things that were going on in my community. And so I just think you just change and you give you handle it as a conscious person. You don't all of a sudden become a 5-year-old, how is that being spiritually aware? Because just because you have a divorce, you're going to act like a 5-year-old, or you're going to display the same behavior as the people that we call out, the people we call out who say are unethical. What are your ethics? Those ethics don't change. Consistency means that you are consistent in all aspects of your life. So I don't know if I answered that.
Yes, to some extent, you summarized it very well. That yeah, the thing
The, the
is, if you
likelihood
know,
the
please,
likelihood if
please.
you're spiritual and your spouse isn't long term, it's not going to, if they're not in the same, if they're not moving in the same direction. The
Mhm.
reality is, if you want to continue on your spiritual path, it's not going to work, because one part of your life is going to be inauthentic. If you don't have balance, I consider it like a circle. If there's a part of the pie that's not balanced, you're never going to get, you're stopping the process. So like for a researcher, I would say it's the same thing as falling for a psyop. If you don't have a circle, there's a problem. I'm not saying the relationship has to be the first one to change in the pie, but all of it has to change in the pie. If that's the life why you came here, what's your mission when you came here? What did you come here to be? And if you're with somebody who doesn't understand you, that's different than somebody who does understand you. Your whole life's different. That's huge. That is very, as everything in your life is huge. If you don't eat well, if you don't consciously eat, you're going to be overweight, you're going to be unhealthy, you're going to have inflammation. So that affects your life deeply. If you're not enjoying or doing what you're passionate about, you're not going to be successful. So it's going to affect your life, and then that's going to affect your finances. If you don't do the inner work, you're not going to have the self-esteem to set healthy boundaries. So all of it works together. It all has to, it's all connected, you know? So it's much
Every
deeper. It's
yes,
much deeper than most
every
people.
it is like every action has a reaction. You should
Yes.
know that. And once you know that, it's just like you cannot compromise one thing over and over again the whole life. Uh, just like in my case, she was expecting from me to do just like give her happy Friday, happy birthday, happy that day, happy that. She was expecting from me, and I was like that every day is the same. You have to be respect and kindful. You don't have to wait for a certain day. Okay, but for me, I value people. I don't value days. And if I value a person I'm with, and that kind of person I am. I'm more like a spiritual person, and I don't know whether it falls in the category of spiritual or not, but I have a different kind of philosophy or theory, and I live my life with that philosophy, with this theory of simplicity. And my partner was expecting completely different things from me. And once the goals, and she thought, I think she must have thought that she can compromise on those things, but later on things became more complicated because once you start uh, you cannot compromise the same thing over and over again because it would explode sooner or later.
And I was thinking while you were speaking, something was coming to my mind, that you're not the person that you were with her. So when I'm hearing you, I'm hearing kind of like a little bit more pain, or, a little piece of that could be, you know, affecting your relationships today, or who you may consider today. And that person is not you. The more work you do, the more you're transforming, the more you're shedding. So I think people get stuck in, well, this is how my relationships were, so this is how I am. And no, 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 that doesn't have to be. It stops when you decide. It stops when you do the work. I don't consider myself who I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm the person that goes back to the present. I'm the person that I am now. And, I have boundaries that I have now that I might not have had 10 years ago. I've changed as a person. So those boundaries can change, and don't carry that baggage with you. That's the baggage that you carry into the next relationship. And it's freeing for you to get rid of it, because that's something heavy. It doesn't make you feel good, but you did your inner work. So now, and you're learning every day. So your relationship doesn't have to be like, you would even have that start. Somebody who's conscious won't even have that start, because someone who isn't interested in what you have to say, for many of us, a huge part of our life is communication and speaking and having great conversations, enjoying each other's company, because a lot of us are introverts. We'd be alone. So we're not going to spend our time around somebody who's not interested in us. Why would we do that? We're better off alone. We like ourselves. We like ourselves and like hanging out with ourselves. So, and you have to go through that hermit stage to do the inner work. People who are all social and especially you have to be mindful about who you're around, because if you're having dumbed down conversations all day, you're not doing inner work. And the further along you get, the more strict you become. If you notice, even I can compare it to people who work on a healthy lifestyle. You might start your lifestyle where you just cut out red meat, and then you move on and on. Then you're, eating kefir, or, doing supplements, or doing all these things, or eating raw, becoming a vegetarian, organic. You start off with one step. So that applies to everything. It just takes time. So you're doing the inner work to say, what am I doing? What can I change? And that's a whole other thing. That's a whole separate thing on how to build your self-esteem and feelings of self-worth. That's, you have to do that. And it's essential. It's essential to do that work. And I guess the frustration for me is when I see, other therapists just focusing on one thing. You can't fix the whole pie if you only focus on one thing. So if you don't do the inner work, and it's not something that you can't put a time phase on it, like cognitive behavioral therapy, they'll say you have 8 sessions to do this, and they don't go into anything deep. So it's doomed to fail. So the counseling that you get is really doomed to fail, because they don't get to the roots. And that's the same thing as The Secret. Little gimmicks. Here, take a vaccination. That'll make you feel, that will prevent you. No, there's no easy way. There's no easy way to get things done. And the first thing starts with you. So if you skip a step, you're going to be dealing with these emotional problems that you have in your relationship because you're not in balance.
You should be on the same page. It is easier said than done.
Yes, it's not easy. I never, I
Yes,
want to
no.
say to people, this is just, I'm giving you how I've done it. And you never end the process. So people could say, well, how can she say this about this? Or how can she say that about that? Her life's not perfect. And I'm like, well, if you to do the spiritual work, if you really do the spiritual work and you make changes, your life isn't going to be perfect. It shouldn't be perfect. People have perfect, unless they went through the process and have, pretty balanced lives. It's not perfect. It's balanced. If they have balanced lives, you see them in a better position. But then you have the people who are maybe stuck and didn't do any inner work. And the reason why they're together is for superficial reasons, not real deep root reasons. They're at the same level. No one's moved that far. So they're fine. They're fine. In their reality, they're fine. But you can't skip a step. And, most people don't realize how hard that is. And, if you're doing relationship counseling or you're counseling in general, if you don't work on it, it's a waste of time. You can get some ideas on it. It can help a little bit, but you're not getting to the root of the problem.
Unless you work on yourself.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
hard. I never understood that for years. For years, I didn't understand what it meant to work on myself. However, I believe I was on the process because I had a curiosity and I read about spiritual things. I was always interested and I was always listening to something, but it didn't all click together. It clicked little by little by little. And that's how my process had to go. So you can't even be hard on yourself, because then you're being hard on the process. The process is the process, and the process never ends.
Yeah. So when we have been talking about the inner work that you have to know yourself. So what are the things the person has to keep in mind about the inner work? What does it mean by the inner work you're talking about in the relationship?
I couldn't, sorry, just think I couldn't sum it up in, like, definitely not today. That would be much longer because it's step by
Mhm.
step. It's a
Yeah.
process.
Okay. Okay.
I can
We'll
give
talk
you,
about
yeah, I
we'll
can give
talk
you,
about it in the. It should be the topic for the next week.
All
But
right, yeah, it's called shadow work, and it really connects like the way, and I can explain it the way I did it, and also
mhm, mhm,
as a former therapist doing cognitive behavioral, I've
mhm.
applied it to my life, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I can do it alive on
Yeah,
that. Yep.
yeah, we can do because since we have been talking about the relationship, building trust in the relationship, we are talking about today. We had a very detailed discussion on the relationship advice, but things where we talk about admiring, appreciating, listening to your partner, not taking your partner for granted, doing the inner work, same values, and many things we have discussed there. And it all comes down to the next point is our life is pushing us to the next point is to what is the inner work in the relationship, and it is a very good topic for the next week. And how do you summarize today's topic?
You have to work on your roots. Everything has roots. Everything has a foundation. When Abraham Lincoln said a house divided can't stand, what does that mean? Imbalance. So every aspect of your life needs to have balance. So to me, even before we go back to your relationship problems or a symptom of you not doing your inner work, and I'll go into that further next week, next Sunday when we're on at 8:30, step by step. You there?
uh, yes, I'm here. He is a comment from Riley, and I am a chemical resistant. The government the government okay, the government has trying to poison me for years. I tried all the medications, then I stopped and fell to where I needed to be. Best decision ever. Yeah. My
Or
apologies, Mr.
Riley?
Farmer. Yes, Riley. And
Yeah.
hey, Adrian. Hey, Jesse. And thank you so much, guys, for joining us and for your beautiful comments. And I'm gonna acknowledge all of your comments later on after the live. And
I want to say, can I
and
say one more thing?
yes,
Sorry,
please
can I
do.
interrupt you? I don't want
Yes.
to for next. I want to. It's not. I'm not going to give you the whole. It's much longer than people think. If things aren't so
We are going.
gimmicky or easy, I'll give you the first steps to the first 101 of how to start. How about that?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give unreal expectations. It's 101 how to start with your roots.
Okay, and because we do around about 1 hour of show and once a week, and uh, we cannot do cover everything in 1 hour. Yeah, the roots are much deeper, and
Everything
that's
in
what we
spiritual is much cheaper.
are.
It takes a long time. It's a hard concept, and most of us have been trying to study it for years. So it's not so. It's if it was so easy, everybody would be there. So it's
Yes.
slow. So I'll go over the 101, little basic to get people started.
Yes, and yeah, we had a very good detailed discussion on best relationship advice. Work on the final thought. The gist of the discussion is work on yourself. Once you know yourself and you and your partners are on the same page in terms of values, then there won't be any conflict later in the road. And thank
One
you,
more thing.
Melissa.
No, wait, one more thing.
Thank you.
What
Yeah,
if
please
I were
do.
to give a homework assignment? If I were to give a homework assignment to people watching who maybe want to try out what I'm
Mhm.
suggesting, try it and apply it in their life, then I'd say what I'd ask for people who haven't done really any deep spiritual work. All I want you to do this week, I'm going to apply cognitive behavioral therapy, but add my twist. But what I'd say is what I want you to do is just be aware of your thoughts. Just be aware of your thoughts this week. So we can get started right away, and I can add on that for next week. But anybody who
Yeah,
wants to participate, again, all I'm asking is for you to be aware of your thoughts. You're not judging them. You're just like, okay, there's a thought, there's a thought, there's a thought, like clouds. I want you to be, I want the first step of consciousness is being aware of your thoughts.
yeah. What are your thoughts? Are they good, bad, negative, positive?
I don't,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, it
There are
depends.
many
You could
things.
start, if
Yeah,
you're somebody who hasn't done any inner work, I just want you to be aware that you're thinking, that that's a
yeah,
thought. Because we first have to have you understand, you know, just be conscious that you're having thoughts, because most people are walking around not conscious that they're having thoughts. So for that level, all I want you to do this week is to be like, okay, there's a thought, there's a thought, there's a thought. If you're a little bit more, if you've done more, a little bit of inner work, then I want you to be aware of that's negative, that's positive, that's negative. I just, then you label it, then you put an attachment to it. You know, I had a thought and it's negative. I had a thought and it's positive. You know, I had a thought and it's negative. So, yes. And wait, one more
Yes,
thing. If you're a little bit
yeah, yeah.
higher, if you're a little bit higher up, then you can have a thought. You can go through those steps a little easier. And then you have a thought and you challenge it. You know, you have to challenge the thought because you have a negative thought and you're like, well, that's not true. You know, so if you're that level, then when you're already aware that you're having thoughts, then you're saying to yourself automatically, that's not true. And you're not going to catch yourself every time. But when you catch it, say, that's not true. That's not true. You know, so that level, I want you to start confronting it a little bit. No, that's not true. Because you got to take your power back in your mind. So you have to, you know, you have to stop it. That's not true. So if you're that level, I want you to do that. All right, that's it. That's it.
Yes, yes, and thank you, Melissa, for joining us. And hopefully, Paul will join us next week, and we are going to dive much deeper into the relationship and how the works, inner work works. And thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Adrian. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Riley. Thank you, all the Angeline, Amanda, other people for joining us for your beautiful comments, and thank you for sharing it out. And I'll see you next week, and
All right.
we'll come back with the other topic. Have a good day, good afternoon, good evening,
Okay.
wherever
Take
you are.
care.